Hi, Dr. Swain. Hope you're doing well. I apologize I had to do this in two, but unfortunately, the way I'm doing YouTube, it was too large. So I apologize. And I hope you're well. I look forward to sharing this with you. Who am I? Where have I come from? What have I learned that can be applied to the formation of my pastoral care? During the process of answering these questions, I was surprised by how much I really have to learn about myself through a different lens, a pastoral lens. The genogram process was enlightening to me. At first, I thought how boring my family was, other than me, and I'll get to that. My parents have been married for 68 years. Two of my older siblings married their high school sweethearts, and one married one of my sister's best friends. They have been married for 44, 44, and 42 years, respectively. Before my eldest sister passed 2 years ago, she had been happily married to her high school sweetheart for 47 years. All my family lives within 20 minutes of each other and has done so their entire lives. They all get along, including the next generation. My parents live in the farmhouse where my father was born. I added an element which I felt was important to the picture: friends. Throughout my life, I've had the best of friends on my journey whose love was unconditional. Just like in my family, I am called Uncle Mark by my friends' kids, and for some, I am their godparent. Being uncle has impacted my approach to care, as I am authoritative while being a compassionate friend. There were no red lines or dotted lines on my genogram, they were all green. Yes, my family has had and still has disagreements sometimes, but nothing to warrant anything other than a green line of harmony. I have been very blessed, and thank God for that. Then there is me. I am the baby of the family, 5 years younger than the next youngest. I am gay and have been a recovering alcoholic for over 5 years, which I'm very proud of. I add the collar to the genogram, except for my family members, my brother in law, and my dad, who have diabetes. I lived in New York City for almost half of my life and worked in and traveled to 45 countries. I am different from my family, but at the same time, alike in my core. Leveraging what I've learned this semester, I can begin to understand which elements from my experience and relationships along my journey have shaped who I am and how I can grow into an effective caregiver. Growing up, I did not feel there was a distinct authoritative figure in my family. My parents' relationship reflected an equilibrium. We have and continue to have much respect for them. My siblings and I were given a level of independence which has given us confidence and made us leaders. Confidence in yourself is not easy to achieve, especially if life has been filled with challenges. But in providing care, we have to give hope. I grew up in a household built around morality and a strong work ethic. As you wrote, accountability grows from moral development. This will serve me as those morals have been part of myself and the benchmark as I reference my interactions throughout my life. However, as I apply to this caregiving, I would need to refrain from expecting the morals and values of those seeking care to mirror my own. I need to understand what drives their morals and values regarding help. Being a management consultant for over 27 years, my job was to define and implement solutions for my clients. As standard states, being lovingly present with another in the fullness of their experience without anxiously trying to fix their situation or provide solutions. I would need to have patience and accept that there may not be solutions. Sometimes I'll need to just listen. Being typical Pennsylvania Germans, although my parents are thankfully devout Democrats watching MS Now consistently, in public they do not want to rock the boat and avoid any confrontation. I, however, through my life experiences, have learned that it is important, especially when exposed to injustices, to voice my thoughts, whether or not others agree. As I apply this to my caregiving, as Sanders stated, being neutral is a fiction, and maintaining that fiction in our caregiving practice can be harmful. To be effective, I cannot ignore the reality of injustices and their impact on care seekers. In the development of myself and identity as a youth, shame was a factor in my growth and the choices I made. As you have stated, shame is feeling that I'm bad, whereas guilt is more disconnected feeling that something I have done was bad. Early on, I believe I had both. Although I had a successful childhood, being class president and valedictorian with many friends and being respected, I felt shame about my gayness, which I had not yet accepted. I compensated for this with my achievements. I can relate to Sanders' description of microaggressions. Always being effeminate, I would be called names such as sissy by even my close friends. They did not realize these comments hurt. Anytime the word gay was said, I would feel a punch in my stomach. Throughout my life, this has made me an advocate for inclusivity and against bullying. Beginning in my youth, I would stand up for those being bullied, the fat kid or the kid who smelled because of the household he came from. This instilled in me at an early age what values I wanted to maintain, and with pastoral care, the advocacy I need to promote. When I consider this in the context of boundaries, I recognize they are a challenge for me. I want to be everybody's friend, best friend. I've become a very expressive and open person, as you can see. This is due to so many years of being confined. I need to ensure my expressiveness does not distract from conversations. I also need to be aware that my sharing does not make one uncomfortable or that they feel they need to share as well. Through my travels and in reflection of my undergraduate and in reflection of my undergraduate degree in international business, my focus has been on developing empathy for as many cultures, nationalities, and religions as possible. This is also reflected in my Myers-Briggs results, which indicate I'm an NF. As discussed in Skills of Effective Listening and other readings and discussions, I want to go deeper. My goal in pastoral care is to reach the level of intuitive empathy. I also need to practice both cognitive empathy and effective empathy, as Sanders describes to be effective. I like how you state it is in the rich creative space in the person that that identity dynamically rests. It is in this space that we respond to the call to be who we are and what we are called to do. As Skinner states, authority as engineering a context of nurture and liberation, occasioning trust and gratitude. Wow, four of my favorite words. Being nurtured and liberated enables individuals to become grounded and to trust others, working toward freedom with their identities. As I was nurtured but did not feel liberated, being gay, I was holding back. And as I look to my pastoral self, I will encourage others to be authentic, to be their authentic selves, enabling me to understand better the truth affecting their challenges. Authority must be seen in the context of vulnerability, ours and others. I love how it is stated that authority is in itself an act of imagination. Responsibility should not be grounded in a sense of voluntary commitment, but in response to vulnerability. In my recovery from alcohol dependence, I took responsibility for my addiction and learned to be vulnerable. What I learned about being vulnerable will be leveraged as I interact with people with an addiction or those suffering in general, and I remember, to quote you again, a suffering person can maintain logical thinking and problem solving, which makes them vulnerable but not a victim. Understanding and being able to discuss being a victim or a survivor is critical to mental health and well being. Collegiality does not dissolve into a merged collective functioning, but can sustain both unity and diversity in the team. As I develop my pastoral ministries, unity and diversity will be critical elements in the communities I build and work with. I will be able to leverage my experience in DEI within the firm where I worked for 27 years. I have seen the importance of recognizing each person's value and respecting their role. What is my role as a caregiver? This is critical to working effectively within teams and communities. Building communities will be a mission of mine. As you refer to Kornfeld, authentic community is the medicine our society needs. As you also stated, a communication, conflict resolution, and commitment or love are the marks of a healthy, functioning community. Having worked on high-stake projects for financial service companies, I have learned to recognize and help resolve conflicts and will leverage this going forward. Most importantly, I will always remember that the divine will be overseeing my work with me and will seek their blessings. This is a lot to digest, and I still am, but I have a foundation to work with. And on the next video, I will continue with my models and others.